suggesting a still hot job market, which could keep inflation high, pushing the Fed to raise interest rates more aggressively next week to fight that. All eyes on bank shares today. Investors are worried that problems at a small California financial company, Silicon Valley Bank, could appear at bigger names. More than $70 billion wiped off the crypto market in 24 hours as Bitcoin fell below $20,000. Ulta Beauty with a super strong quarter. Consumers keep buying cosmetics and beauty products. Gap announced a big quarterly loss, declining sales and an executive shakeup. The retailer also owns Banana Republic, Old Navy, and Athleta. It's all about the movie business this weekend as the Academy Awards are Sunday night. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
We expect our information in real time. U.S. Med carries continuous glucose monitors, which provide real-time readings of blood glucose levels. U.S. Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers. So call 800-730-8405 today for a free insurance and Medicare benefits check. As easy as, that's 800-730-8405.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at Teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224.
Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Big news today. Michigan Yes, Michigan, looking at you. They have moved to repeal their no rights at work legislation. It's out of the House, going to the Senate, moving on a promise that they made to voters in Michigan in 2022 that they would repeal the horrible right to work law that the Republicans rammed through like thieves in the night a little over a decade ago. And again, I look at when Republicans did this, like thieves in the night. It's my number one reason why I'm against term limits. Because a good number of the people who voted for this horrible legislation back in 2012 were people who were term limited out and they were looking for a job. So it was the payoff. You vote for this no rights at work. You take this ability of workers to fight for better wages, hours, conditions away, and we'll give you a soft landing spot. All you got to do is vote for this lovely sounding piece of legislation. Because who could possibly be against someone's right to work? Who could be against that? And yet we know no rights, no work, and not only that, lower wages, less benefits, and less safe. As one of the proponents of the legislation pointed out, that since Michigan went this horrible direction, wages are down 13%, and injuries at work are up 50%. Also, union membership has fallen from the fifth highest in the country down to 12th. And that was always the plan. That's the idea of these no rights at work schemes. It's to lower the number of people who have the ability to collectively bargain. Because what they like, again, it's about separating the sheep. It's about separating we the working people, because it's easier to negotiate and get your will over one or two, but not the entire facility, which is why collective bargaining works and why it has to be broken. Now, I love the right to work folks' arguments. No, we're not anti-union. No, we wouldn't do that. We're for choice. And yet you see time and time again, because they understand where the power is. The power is in the moneyed interests. The power is in if you look at Pennsylvania's workers' compensation law, it still refers to the employer-employee relationship as a master-servant relationship. So understand where their thinking is. They know where the power is. They know where the money is. It's certainly not the workers. So this is a huge, to steal a Joe Biden, this is a BFD. This is a big freaking deal. Finally, Democrats going, we're gonna do it. Virginia's still mad at you. But we'll see if it gets through the Senate, and I believe it will, and I believe the governor will sign it, and we will see one of these horrible pieces of legislation go down. And look, we need to do this across the country to give workers the ability to collectively bargain for better wages, hours, conditions. Now, the moneyed interest, they're not going to go softly. They're not going to go quietly into that good night. In fact, billionaire Betsy DeVos, you may remember her, Trump's education secretary, and some of the other moneyed interests of Michigan, they're rattling the sabers a little bit, saying that they may petition for a drive to let the voters decide. Now, because they're playing on, voters didn't want to add collective bargaining rights to their constitution. It failed in that vote. So they're taking this going, say they don't want it. I think now is the time, especially after the shutdown, especially after you see the massive disparity in wages between the billionaire Betsy's of the world and all the people who actually go out and do the work. It's going to be an interesting moment. And the reason I bring this up today, good news today, Bernie Sanders, chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, the HELP Committee. I love the fact that Bernie's the chair of this. And one of the great quotes that came out of Sanders today was, there is a class war going on, whether we want to recognize it or not. And I tend to recognize it. Yeah, I can, you go back to the quote attributed to Jay Gould, I could easily pay half the working class to murder the other half. And that was what kind of played out in this hearing today. As you had a couple of, you had the right to work guy there from on one side. You had the I think a chamber guy, if I'm not mistaken. And then you had Mary Kay Henry from SEIU, Liz Schuler from the AFL-CIO, and Sean O'Brien from the Teamsters, which O'Brien got all of the headlines today because much of the attention was focused on him and the exchange between him and Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. And look, I want to get into that, but the most important quote that came out of it is O'Brien said, when an employer, be they rail carriers, package companies, or coffee shops, gets away with repeated abuse of American workers, the legislators who let it happen are complicit in these crimes. And I've been saying this for the longest time. Look, these companies have been getting away, literally, with committing crimes daily. And honestly, and I said this the other day, if I'm advising a company on how to break their union, it would be malpractice to not have them break the law. It would be malpractice to say, no, don't not fire someone. That's wrong. It's bad. No, the law is so weak, the teeth are so are grinded down to nubs that it doesn't matter. The penalties are non-existent. And this is what O'Brien and the others were saying. Look, we need major comprehensive labor law reform. We need real teeth in organizing. Now, what I loved, oh boy, every Republican who stepped up there was, we're not against unions. No, it's the same. Understand what the right line is. The Republican, the conservative, the right-leaning, the anti-worker line is always the same. Whether it's a guy in Michigan, whether it's their no rights at work guy, whether it's Mix, the national no rights at work guy, no matter, or a senator on the help committee, it's all the same. We're not anti-union. No, we just believe in competition, and we want people to have choice. And yet you see that the choice that they get is to be harassed, intimidated, browbeaten, sometimes fired. And again, we've seen these high-profile cases, which are not new. This stuff's been going on for decades, but we're finally paying attention to it. And this hearing is a pretty big deal in that finally someone in our government is bringing it up. Is it going to go anywhere? I doubt it. But it's important to keep bringing this stuff up and important to keep talking about it in a way that workers see someone fighting for them. Look, the thing I loved most of all about this hearing was the fact that O'Brien was not going to back down from Markwayne Mullin. Mullin was talking, when they come after me, I encourage, physical this or that. I'm going to take him on because he thinks he's Billy, bad, what. And O'Brien didn't back down, and good on him. It's about time working people have a little swagger. It's about time that working people man up and say, you know what, we're not going to back down. We're not going to take it on the chin anymore. We're going to stand up and fight. And I love the fact that O'Brien, while he didn't have any facts in front of him, he wasn't wrong. He pointed out that CEOs are getting away with, millions of dollars, and they're hiding money. And he pointed it back at Markwayne Mullin, who is a really rich guy, and said, well, how much do you make? Because Mullin tried to go after him for what he makes as the union president. Now, we can argue whether $195,000 a year for a union president is too much. I don't think so. But we can argue whether that's too much in this day and age, especially when you look at, you got some UPS drivers who are making $100,500. Now, Mullin said, well, you've got these feeder drivers who are making $35,000, which not even close to possible. If that's the case, you only worked a couple of months. But wanted to throw this out there to make it look like, well, you got these rich union bosses making $195,000 a year without looking in the mirror. Because here's a guy, according to Tulsa World, which is a news publication out in Oklahoma where Markwayne Mullin's from. They pointed out, looking at the financial disclosures that he put forth as a candidate, that his wealth in 2020 ranged from 7.3 million to 29.9 at the end of 2020. For the last election in 2022, his wealth ranged in the 31.6 to 75.6 million range. Significantly more than the prior 2 years. Now, you go, well, that's because, everyone got a little bit wealthier. If you're in the Senate, you obviously know stuff. Why I bring this up is O'Brien said, well, how much do you make? And he said that he made $50,000 a year. And I'm going, how do you build that kind of wealth on $50,000 a year? Now, he says he puts it back into his business because he wants us to believe that he lives like a pauper. I want to know. I now have to see the $50,000 in tax forms. I now have to see the claims that Mark Wayne Mullen made, that his employees make more than union plumbers with better wages, better benefits, better conditions. I now have to see this because, look, if it's true, good on Mark Wayne Mullen. I haven't seen that often. There have been a few exceptions where that has rung true, but the general rule is union workers make better wages, hours, conditions. That's the general rule. Now, again, you look at some of this stuff. They talked about, why does it always have to be so adversarial? And I've always said it doesn't have to be. Workers don't want it to be adversarial. They want to participate in the company that they work for. They want to put all of their energy, they want to put all of their passion into making that company successful. But it's got to come back to them. I say all the time, the company that I work for, I want them to be as profitable as possible. So that come negotiation time, we see better wages in our pockets too. I want that company to be successful for 100 years so that I can retire and my kids, if they want to work there, can work there, and their kids, and so on. But this right-wing frame that unions want to put companies out of business, again, front and center in the adversarial discussions. And it doesn't have to be this way. There can be a symbiotic relationship where companies are going, yeah, we want the best labor, we want the best product we can get, and the workers are like, yeah, we want to work for a company that treats us well. That should be something that can be somewhat agreed on, but at the end of it, when you start talking about, CEOs and executives and shareholders wanting more and more and more, and this insatiable appetite for more, who gets squeezed? Well, the workers, because they're nothing but a negative on the balance sheet today. And it wasn't always that way. So the question is, how do you get back to a place where it's no longer that adversarial? And I say, the more people in unions, the more people across the board who have access to union jobs, the better it's going to be. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Got lots to get to today. Lots on my mind. Back after this. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Wherever you find your favorite podcast, you'll grab ours. Back after this.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
I took 2 years of electric in high school, and I was the only girl in the class there. Here, I'm the only girl as far as installers go. I'm a single mom, too. I joined the union because it gave me options for health care and life insurance so that I know my son's taken care of. I like what I do. This is the best job I've ever had. You think solar panels is more like California, you wouldn't think Appalachia would have any. It would be smart if the government would invest more in clean energy resources.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So lots of email around Schmucker Carlson. Reality, the headlines. It's the end of Tucker Carlson. You had the headline, Fox is effed, by former senior Obama advisor Dan Pfeiffer. And look, this has been the kind of from the left and from the middle, this has been kind of look how bad it is for Fox News. Look at these emails and look at all of this information that's coming out about how they view their viewers as dupes and morons, and how they knew the big lie was a big lie. But as Rupert Murdoch said, they didn't care. It was about the money. It's not about red or blue, right or wrong, black or white, up or down. It's about cash. It's about green. It's about putting it in their pocket. And one of the interesting back and forths that popped up, the exchange between Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and Tucker Carlson, where Ingraham goes, my anger is at the news channel. It's pronounced. Carlson says, it should be. We devote our lives to building an audience. And they let Chris Wallace and Leland effing Fittert wreck it too much. Hannity says, too much is correct. I'm disgusted at this point. Ingraham, I think the three of us have enormous power. We have more power than we know or exercise together. And they together decided that they were going to, continue to lie. Continue to push the big lie, while Vittert and Wallace were saying, no, this isn't it. Now, Vittert and Wallace are all gone. They left and went somewhere else because they're actually journalists. I mean, I don't always agree with them, but, they're actually journalists telling the story. And what's come up in the emails that I'm getting from people, and this is the weird thing is, everything's now, did you see Tucker Carlson's video? Did you see the video? They were walking between the ropes. And you knew this was going to happen because Republicans think strategically long-term. They think message long-term. They understand their base better than we understand anything else. And I was saying at the time when the January 6th committee was coming together and figuring out how they were going to go forward, and Kevin McCarthy said, we're not participating. If you're not going to give us our attack dogs, and this was an excuse more than anything, because they didn't want anyone on that committee. They said, if you don't give us who we want, we can't put our criminals on there, then we're gonna back out. That was a strategic move. Everyone said, oh, it's stupid. They should have done that. No, they knew what they were doing. They didn't want to have to defend January 6th. They didn't want to have to defend Donald Trump. They didn't want to have to defend the base who showed up and defecated on the floor. They didn't want to have to defend the guy urinating on the desk. They didn't want to have to defend the people stabbing policemen with flagpoles. They didn't want to have to do that. They wanted to be able to sanitize that and say, oh, that's just those liberals and those Democrats showing you this stuff. So they got the video. And Tucker Carlson boiled 40,000 hours of video down to a couple minutes, and they found people walking between the velvet ropes. They found people taking pictures. They found people, skipping through the halls. They found people smelling butterflies. They found all kinds of wonderful images out of 40,000 hours of video. And now they're presenting their narrative, as will Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans. Because this isn't about getting to the truth. This isn't about hashing out an argument and really getting down to reality. This is about This is about narrative. This is about storytelling. This is about the green. Because now we see, Kevin McCarthy, we're going to have our probe into January 6th, and we'll show you. The difference is Democrats aren't going to be stupid enough to go, no, we're not going to participate. They're going to go in there and fight every day for what Republicans bring up. And this Tucker Carlson video is part of that. The stuff that he's been saying and the narrative that, no, these were good people. It was a picnic day. Understand, January 6th, these folks, they went to Washington, D.C. for one purpose. One purpose was to stop the certification of the presidential election. That was it. They went there with that sole intent. Said it over and over and over again. The crime was we're stopping it. And yeah, were there people doing, park kind of things? Sure. But there were also criminals breaking stuff and doing things that landed them in jail, as it should. But what's interesting to me is the Republican base. And this is the part that I'm interested in, because the base is they're kind of like baby birds. They want their information chewed up and basically dropped into their mouths bit by bit so that they don't have to think about it. Because understand, Fox is a con, and those people are the mark. All the hate, no reward for working people, but what you are doing is you are making the rich richer. And I got this idea today. I was thinking about an old movie. The movie was called A Face in the Crowd. Andy Griffith was the star. He played a character, Lonesome Rhodes, who, good old yokel local, just a good old down to earth, good old boy from Arkansas. And, a woman puts him on the radio and he gets, it's kind of a hit. People take to him and his star rises to eventually he gets on TV and he's got a huge TV audience, and all the working people are gathered around the TV, at the bars and at home and at work and all these places to listen to this guy's message because they think he's one of them. And the end, because at the beginning he is. At the beginning, he's like they are. But as he gets wealthier and more powerful, he turns on them, like the Fox News has done. And I went and I looked at the final scene, because at the end of this, you see the rise of Andy Griffith's character until the end, where the woman is, has lost faith in him. She believes in the mission. She believes in the ideology and what he's saying. He doesn't. So at the end, she leaves the microphone potted up so that people can hear what he really thinks. And as the credits are about to roll and they're smiling and waving, and he goes, look at all those morons out there. I could easily take chicken fertilizer and sell it to them as caviar. I could make them eat dog food and they'd think it's steak. Sure, I got them. I got them like this. You know what the public's like, a cage full of guinea pigs. He said, "Good night, you stupid idiots," with a big smile on his face. "Good night, you miserable slobs," smiling like grin ear to ear. There are a lot of trained seals out there, he said. I toss them a dead fish and they flip their flippers. And then they turn to the crowds. And the crowds are like, "Oh, he's a monster. He's horrible." And he turned to the workers, "Oh, he's terrible." And they turn away from him and he's gone. He's done. He's over. We are not that society. We are not that group of people, because what's coming out should be his Lonesome Rhodes moment. Should be the moment when every person in this country looks at Tucker Carlson and the rest of them and says, "You're the monster. You're the liar. You gotta go."
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads, but I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing, because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day,
and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And then the Teamsters pushed the law so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
It doesn't matter what kind of weather. It doesn't matter what time of day or night. When Mother Nature's done her worst, the only thing that matters to us is keeping the lights on for you. The hardworking women and men of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, dedicated to keeping the power on in communities all across the country. Because when bad weather strikes, we know what matters most. IBEW, the power professionals.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.
sponsored by the generous support of the Dream Team. Looking for the keys to something bigger and better? Downsizing or relocating to the perfect spot? Oscar Ramirez from Century 21 Lois Lauer Real Estate and Matt Flores from Secure Choice Lending are here to help you sell or buy with their trusted and experienced knowledge and advice. People are calling Oscar and Matt at 951-751-3249. That's 951-751-3249. Real estate and loan advisors Oscar and Matt can give you a no